In today's video, we're going to be taking a look here at our current conditions where there's two ongoing storms over the United States, one down there in the southeast and one out over in the west. We see that reaching the west coast as we speak. And then we're going to be going over multiple upcoming storms that we see moving through into the United States from the Pacific. There is multiple to speak of. Certainly a very, very interesting setup that we have on the way with a potential large eastern snowstorm on the way, especially the further inland you are here in this eastern region. But odds are kind of back to increasing for some snowfall, especially again across these more central and Appalachian regions here. Now, let's just take a look out west real quickly. And as you can see for the northwest here, we have some showers moving northward here across the region, mostly rainfall, but there is some snowfall in there, especially across the Cascades in here. And then as we reach these kind of more Rocky Mountain regions. As we work our way further southwest here, we can kind of see some energy as we have a low here, some occluded fronts across the region here. And this is just causing some general precipitation across California. Again, rainfall for these coastal and more valley regions, but definitely some snowfall here across your Sierra Nevada regions. And then also across Nevada itself and then into Idaho, we have plenty of snow showers. And then as you can see for these areas in between, we're pretty much left high and dry for a lot of these areas. So we're not going to speak of much of that really. We do have some snow and rain showers moving across the Ohio Valley, mostly for Illinois and Indiana there, where we have rainfall for the southern areas here, as you can see in the greens, and then those whites indicating snowfall for plenty of different areas there as well. Certainly a very, very interesting setup. As we work our way further southeast, we can see there is a low here over Kentucky. A bit of a warm front here extending a cold front underneath. And we have a pretty interesting setup, maybe another bit of a stationary front here. I've been seeing these weird fronts with this low. It's a pretty complicated setup, but in general, we do have some rainfall reaching into that border of Virginia and North Carolina. We could get some snowfall here as things start out in these areas here. It certainly can't be ruled out for some mixed precipitation to start up north of Richmond, Virginia. Heaviest rainfall is going to be here in this corridor here. So we got areas like Richmond, Williamsburg, the eastern shore there. Areas in here is kind of where I'm looking for that bullseye. Later on today, we could experience some thunderstorms along this North Carolina coast because what we're going to see is a low transfer offshore. So we're going to see this transfer offshore. This low is going to build and then kind of move offshore here. So we have this low developing here, right there. And this could send some more thunderstorms onshore later on tonight. Certainly can't be ruled out. As we can see along this cold front, there is some heavier looking showers here, but not really in the form of thunderstorms yet. Definitely, like I said, though, heavier showers along this corridor up and down Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina, and then again back up through Virginia and North Carolina. I don't know why I said it like that, but that is what it is, North Carolina. What we're going to do is move on, take a look at the upcoming modeled guidance, where there is, again, these ongoing storms we're going to be talking about, but some more major ones on the way, especially next weekend, where we need to be talking about that storm that we have been going over for a while now, talk about that one with you guys. All right, now, as we take a look a little bit further into our upcoming pattern, we can see as this kind of gets underway here, we can see some more snowfall trending in tonight for West Virginia, Pennsylvania, and portions of Maryland as well. This is going to be mostly a lighter event, so it's not going to be anything too accumulative, I don't think. This should just be a lighter snowflake event, possibly a dusting to maybe an inch in some areas, but it's a very, very light event. And we can see exactly what I was talking about right there, where the low is primarily over here to start with, and we see it transfer here and then kind of just whoop, right out of there. So we'll see this occur just like that, and it will basically slide away from the coast innocently here. We do see that out west we have these kind of dual storms. We have our primary and then our secondary low here, a little bit littler of an L there. And this is creating a lot of snowfall in some different spots. We can see across portions of the Rockies. We see this occurring. We also see for portions of the Sierra Nevadas there, the southern Sierra Nevadas especially here. I'm underlining it there, but we see very, very heavy snowfall occurring at this point. And this is kind of just the same thing we've been dealing with for a long while now. These persistent storms moving in through the west. I heard Tim Vasquez, I think that's how you say his name, just a couple of days ago, mention uh, the Donner Party, because I think he was talking about Donner Pass and how much snowfall they've seen this season. And it's interesting to note that this would probably be a very similar snowfall year for those areas in the Sierra Nevadas that they saw some, I don't even know, maybe going on 200 years ago, the mid 1800s there. So very, very long time ago. And we saw um, probably a very similar winter to this one back then. Very, very scary to think about because we've seen hundreds and hundreds of inches occur there. Now, this just continues on. We see a low pressure system developing here in Canada. Our next one already approaching the coast here. Some snowfall here across the west, also down for the Rockies. We're seeing some of this snowfall. And then what this kind of leads towards is our next storm system. So we see it's kind of dipped down. We see it about here. And this is it by the time we're taking a look at about Thursday the 12th. We do see a bit of a snow system here for the northeast taking place. Certainly worth mentioning there. As we just continue this on, we do see that this storm, it seems like it's going to be a big time cutter here, but it starts to slide towards the coast more. And as this occurs, it allows for even deeper cold air to move in. And we start to see some snowfall take place in some inland areas, I would say. Here, as we see it slide towards the coast there, and this is during kind of midday on Friday the 13th. We do see plenty of snowfall up and down this Appalachian mountain range, as you can see, North Carolina, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, Kentucky, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine there. We see very, very heavy snowfall now being kind of suggested from this particular model here. So definitely a trend in a snowier direction than what we've been seeing for the past few days. And then that one kind of lifts off. But what we can see continuing is these storms for the areas out west just continuing to move through. So this basically means for the entire United States, this storminess is not going to end because most of these will make their way towards the east in some shape or another, and that's going to lead towards pretty much all lower 48 regions seeing precipitation and storminess from this pattern we're in here. Now, as we just continue this on here, we see that we get a storm system developing for kind of the upper Midwest, and this develops a low pressure or a cold front down here, a bit of a warm front here on the eastern end of things. So we do see these areas east where we're seeing a warm sector get some of this storminess. Definitely interesting and definitely could lead towards a severe weather event, I would say, later on in the pattern, starting Monday the 16th, Tuesday the 17th there, and maybe the 18th across this southern region, southeast here. We've actually been seeing a lot of severe weather events, kind of more moderate events this winter so far compared to other years. And I think also with this 11th, 12th, 13th system, we could get some severe weather in this area. So that would be interesting to say the least. Hopefully that doesn't occur in a bad way, obviously. This one looks a little bit worse according to the models, but we're going to take this with a grain of salt. It is a bit far out. Now, let's take a look at that GFS model, see what this one has to say. We do get to that 12th, 13th system, and we see a big difference. This one, instead of basically doing what the European model showed and sliding off the coast, or, I mean, it didn't do that much, I think. I think it kind of was coming inland and then became a lot more coastal over time, and that's what allowed for that snowfall. What we see from the GFS model here, and I'll put it in red, is we see it actually do the opposite, where it kind of curls back inland, and this would be kind of the opposite of what you would want for a snowy solution. We kind of get more snowfall throughout all of these areas in here, across the Ohio Valley, the Great Lakes, and then also the Northeast as well, seeing some of that snowfall with this one. But again, we'd get a much less major solution. We do have a cold front underneath, warm front setup, so this could bring some heavier rainfall and wind and potentially thunderstorms into the mid-Atlantic regions, but tough to say. Definitely going to be a lot of moisture, whether we tap into the Atlantic moisture or the Gulf, because we can see most of that is coming from the Gulf at this point, but we could get some heading in from the Atlantic as well, which would make this an extra rainy storm, potential for flooding as well. We can see the cold is there. I mean, we see the ridge here and then a deep, deep trough here according to this model. So the potential was always there, just didn't really come together. At least we're not seeing that yet. We do see this same 16th, 17th, 18th system here from the GFS model, where again we have kind of a threat in here somewhere for some thunderstorms and severe weather potentially. Then some snowfall up here for the upper Midwest, I would say. As we just continue this GFS model on, we see for the 20th time frame, we do see a similar storm. Again, a cold front underneath, warm front up to the north. And that would again bring the potential for severe weather in this warm sector out ahead of that cold front, or at least thunderstorm activity. We do get another storm, but this one comes more from the Gulf, just like this. And this would probably be more of a heavy rainfall event, less of a thunderstorm look, in my opinion. And then what we see from this GFS model is the signs of this cold wanting to head eastward as we see these storms kind of moving across the nation. I see that the cold is kind of charged up here and it is heading towards the east, so I could see things getting colder and colder with time here. Certainly very, very interesting stuff there. Now, as we take a look here, we see that on the total precipitation here, anywhere in the whites is expecting practically no precipitation. Your grays is 1/10 of an inch or less of precipitation. Your greens 1/10 of an inch to 1/2 an inch. Blues 1/2 an inch to an inch. Your yellows 1 inch to 2 inches. Reds 2 to 5 inches there, which we see some of this going on for the eastern United States here over the next 10 days here. And then also obviously out west where we have again just these massive storms and multiple of them heading onshore from the Pacific Ocean there. And then even the browns is going to be 5 to 10 and blues 10 inches plus in there. So certainly a ton of precipitation. Your snowfall here, the grays are going to be dusting, if anything. Blues 2 to 6 inches of snowfall. Purples 6 to 10. Pinks 10 to 20 there. Your pastel blues 20 inches plus. And then kind of where you get pastel pinks like over the Sierra Nevadas there, we do see 36 inches plus. And even a maximum of 309, again, near that Donner Pass, area in there. There's obviously some other regions, but particularly that's an interesting thing to me because I read a lot about that this year. I think I mentioned that earlier to you guys in the year that I was reading about the Donner Party, and it's just so interesting how there's a lot of weather. Obviously, it has a lot to do with weather, so it's just extra interesting and devastating to me, honestly, the whole story. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at the temperature pattern. It's been a few days since we've taken a look at the temperature pattern, or we might have done it yesterday, but we've been kind of just doing it off and on. The interesting thing is we do, after we get this kind of period of some cold and some snow, so after about the 15th, maybe about the 17th here, we look to set into a very warm pattern in the east, according to most ensemble models and deterministic models. So that is in general what we're seeing a lot of here from our models. As we just continue on with this, we see it trends in the same direction all the way through the 22nd, and we have this cold out west being a negative PNA, and that is just encouraging this warm to basically just keep doing what it's doing and not change anything. Although right at the very tail end, we do see some cold starting to trend in, kind of like what we saw from the GFS model, and I wouldn't be surprised that if right around this 22nd through 24th time frame was a big switch up in the model, especially we're seeing some warmth trending in here along the west coast, which could be the signs of a growing positive PNA trying to trend in, which would basically cause this cold to move this way, probably get coupled up with some Arctic airs. We do have still a negative AO. There is still signs that we could finish off January with cold and snow, but we don't want to get our hopes too far up. Obviously, that's unforeseen. We're talking beyond the end of the model run here. And you want to take my thoughts with a grain of salt, but in general, that wouldn't surprise me. It also would not surprise me if we just stayed warm through the end of January. We've seen things like that happen before too, where we get stuck in a pattern. So anything is on the table. Be sure to subscribe as we do have a very interesting pattern coming up and an interesting 10 days of videos coming up because we're going to continue talking about that pattern change and waiting for a potential pattern change. And we will be the first to show you guys when there is the signs of that happening. So stay tuned. Be sure to subscribe, even hit the bell icon for daily notifications, and like the video if you did enjoy it. Leave a comment down below. I'll see you guys in the next video.